welcome back to the Bit Beacon broadcast. Today we have for you episode 085. It's June 2nd, 2025. You can call me Kodax and I'll be your host through this week's broadcast. So I have been playing a newly arrived game, Fantasy Life I, with the subtitle of The Girl Who Steals Time. This is my one new arrival for the week, and it's the one game that I have been obsessed with playing. So this game released physically only in Japan. Everywhere else in the world, it's a digital-only title. Funny story, this was originally going to be published exclusively on Nintendo Switch, but Level 5 decided to back out of that deal they had with Nintendo and instead publish it on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series consoles, PC, and Nintendo Switch themselves, but that meant Nintendo was no longer going to do publishing duties for the game here in the west part of the world. So that's why we end up with a Japan-only physical release. So I did import the PlayStation 5 physical copy, which does play perfectly fine in English. If you're, maybe interested in this game, you can purchase the physical Japanese version and it'll play in your local language as long as the digital version also supports the game in your local language as well. So this is one universal SKU for the whole global marketplace. So what is Fantasy Life? Well, at its core, it's kind of a job simulator is not the right word, but basically it gives players the freedom to choose from different what they call lives, so that you could be a woodsman, or what do you call it? Someone who cuts down trees for a living. Lumberjack kind of a person. You could be a miner. You could be a tailor. You could be a paladin. You can be a mage. So they have all these kind of like combat roles as well as sort of life type roles. And there's all this kind of crafting and gathering of materials. And it's all connected in this way where they just sort of feed off of each other, like where if you want to be a blacksmith, well, you're going to need minerals and ore and things like that. So you also need to become a miner. And so you go mining, and then you go back to town, and then you can like do your blacksmithing stuff on the side. It kind of reminds me of like RuneScape, where you could literally just spend hours like chopping down trees and leveling up your skills. In a lot of ways, it's basically that kind of a game, except it's an offline game. That being said, there is like optional multiplayer stuff you can do with people online, but this is not a online required game. You can play the whole thing solo. So yeah, I've really been enjoying my time just chopping down trees, exploring caves, defeating little monsters, collecting materials. It's one of those, it's like a podcast game. You can literally be listening to anything, kind of just sort of, not mindlessly, but funwithly. You can funwithly play this game while doing kind of something else in your head, I guess you could say. So this is from Level 5, and Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, is the third game in the Fantasy Life series. The original game launched on Nintendo 3DS more than a decade ago at this point, I think. And it was a huge hit. And for whatever reason, Level 5, instead of making a sequel, they decided they were going to make Fantasy Life 2 a mobile game. My understanding is the game didn't do very well, and after a couple years, it closed down. And so then we waited a long time, and I believe 2 years ago, back in 2023, they announced Fantasy Life I, and ever since then, it's been one of my most anticipated games. It's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy kind of all the like micromanaging of different things I got to be doing. It's definitely like ADD the game. You get very distracted and you're like, oh, I need to go do this. Oh, wait, there's this over here. Oh, go here, go here, go here. And it's, I don't know, fun for me to sort of like mentally juggle all of that and, get back to what I was doing. The game also does have like a story path to it. So I've been skipping all the cutscenes because the story's just kind of whatever. I just want to get to the new areas to explore and collect new things and fight new monsters, that kind of a thing. Yeah, there's that. And there's also this like secondary, like giant, massive open world area that the game introduced me to kind of early on, but has since not led me back there. So I think I'm going to maybe save that for after I'm done with like the story of the game, and then I'll go explore that massive area. The game is huge and offers so much content. I could easily see myself sinking 100 hours into this thing by the time I'm ready to walk away from it. So yeah, Fantasy Life I'm really enjoying it. You might too. Check it out. So this week is a huge week for gaming. On Thursday, the Nintendo Switch 2 launches worldwide, finally. On Friday, Jeff Keighley presents his Summer Games Fest showcase live from a YouTube theater in Inglewood, California. Then this weekend, IGN hosts their second annual event, IGN Live, in LA. And then on Sunday, also in LA, Hideo Kojima will be in town at the Orpheum Theater for a special presentation of his new game, Death Stranding 2, On the Beach. And this is called the Game Premiere Event. It's part of the Death Stranding World Tour, and I was able to get the free tickets for that. I will be at IGN Live. I will be getting a Nintendo Switch 2. I won't be in person at the Summer Games Fest showcase. I do have a ticket to go to it. I was able to get a free ticket through some connections I have, but I have something I got to be doing at work on Friday, and it's only going to leave me about an hour of time to possibly leave work early and drive all the way to Inglewood, and I just don't think it's worth the risk of driving up there and maybe not being able to get in because I showed up late or something like that. So I will just have to watch the Summer Games Fest live stream from my home on the internet, just like everyone else. So next week's episode is probably going to be all focused on just the 4 above topics, the 4 above events I just mentioned. So stay tuned. But for now, on to the news. Remember last week when Randy Pitchford told fans that he has no control over the price of Borderlands 4 and that real fans would make it work and pay $80 if need be? Well, that didn't go over so well with gamers, and Randy is back in the news, and this time with an apology. His apology was a seemingly never-ending ramble of words, so I'm going to try to edit out as much of the unnecessary stuff as I can and just get down to the core of what he was talking about here for the sake of brevity. And even that is still a pretty long apology, so bear with me. I am sorry there was a misunderstanding. The absolute sincere truth is that I don't want anyone to pay any more than they should or are comfortable with, and I always work with the intent and hope that a customer always feels they got the better end of the deal no matter what they pay. What I was trying to do was explain that it wasn't my call that if a $10 increase does happen, since that's obvious where the industry is going, it will be okay, and that Borderlands 4 will be okay because it's a great game and there are a lot of fans who will see the value and want it. I think my trying to shorthand that using the phrase real fans triggered some people, and I saw that it got inflated as if I was making some big statement, and I could see that it was being pressed into the idea that I was taking the audience for granted, and that's a super poopy look, but it was not at all my intent and does not reflect at all how I feel. The sincere truth is that I'm grateful for anyone that likes our games and humbled that so many fans show up to enjoy and support what we do. As an artist, I don't want prices to go up because I want everyone to have access to what we create. I get that business is a thing and that the market and economy are driving prices up, and sooner or later we're going to have to all adapt to that so the creative engine can make at least as much as it spends to provide us with amazing content. In what world is the creative engine ever just making back what it spends? No, if it doesn't make 10 times what it spent, then the studio gets shut down. Anyways, back to the apology here. May I recommend you consider the people who create entertainment you enjoy are actual real people who sincerely are working to try to make cool stuff. I have dedicated my life to video games as entertainment, and I have made the choice to be accessible on here being Twitter. I don't want to let edge cases ruin that for the majority of people who find value in using this medium for a positive connection, but I cannot help that there's a part of me that doesn't want to at least try to help those that don't get it to gain some perspective and some dignity in how they choose to interact. I'm not claiming I'm perfect, but I don't deserve any less latitude than anyone else. I choose to think of others with the most amount of charity and I'm often surprised to discover that some jump to the worst possible way to consider a thing as doing that is just counter to my nature. So wow, let's unpack that a little bit. He basically starts off by saying, I'm sorry you were offended by what I said last week. I swear that wasn't my intent. And then he goes, this price increase is coming. So, we're just going to have to deal with it eventually. And then the last paragraph here. May I recommend that you consider that the people who make entertainment are real people. He basically is saying like, I don't understand why you guys are so mean to me. It's not right. I was just saying something and I said it wrong accidentally, and you guys need to be nice to me. So it looks like Randy, not only did he really not apologize, but his feelings got hurt. Oh, boo-hoo, Randy, you're a real person with real feelings, and you also have real words that hurt people. So when you say something wrong or dumb or stupid, it has consequences, and as the president, CEO of a company, or whatever you are, you just need to deal with it, and you need to react a little better maybe. In fact, maybe you shouldn't be so accessible on Twitter. Maybe it would be better if you weren't accessible on Twitter. Like maybe just go offline. I can't imagine your company recommends that you engage with random strangers on Twitter. It's a bad look for you. Every time you open your mouth and reply to something, you screw up. Knock it off, Randy. This past week, the majority of mobile versions of classic SEGA games were updated on Android and iOS. When players opened the newly updated apps, they were greeted with a message that read, support for this game will be discontinued, but you can continue playing online or offline. So what games were affected by this update? Nearly all classic SEGA games, except for Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 Classic. So if the games are still going to be playable offline, why are you so concerned? Kodax, what's the big deal? Why are you whining about this time? Well, effectively, this means that these games will eventually fall into disrepair as new versions of iOS and Android release. SEGA will no longer commit to releasing updates for the games to ensure they remain compatible into the future. So, you spent, $5 on these games, let's say, to unlock them or something like that, and then 2-3 years from now, they no longer function on your device. It's worth noting that these games don't require an internet connection, though. So people can continue to, enjoy and play them, and that's a good thing, right? But like anything digital that's not maintained, it will eventually cease to work. There is a rumor that SEGA is planning to launch a subscription service of some kind that will contain their classic game catalog. Last December, we talked about how SEGA delisted their Sega Genesis Classics Collection titles from digital storefronts and will no longer be producing physical copies of that title. So this recent development is more fuel for that fire. But of course, this new thing is a subscription service. Why would they want you to physically own it when they can charge you a monthly or yearly fee for the privilege to access those classic games? It's disappointing to see SEGA go down this route. I mean, they have a lot of classic games for sure, but I don't know that they're going to have enough people willing to subscribe to their own service. Now, again, this is all just rumor. We don't know that they're doing this. But why would they be delisting so many of their classic games if it wasn't to do something like this? Nintendo has kind of a similar thing with the Nintendo Switch Online plan, and that lets people play classic NES, SNES, Game Boy Advance, all those consoles, and is soon to add GameCube games with the Nintendo Switch 2. And that's really cool. But Nintendo doesn't just sell that as its own service. They sell all kinds of things as part of that package, included with, Nintendo Switch 2, all these kind of system functionalities and online play. And I don't like any of that, but at least there's more benefits than just you have access to these games. Now, with Sega, they don't have their own console. They don't have their own ecosystem like that. So I don't know who is really going to buy into this, especially when it's so easy to access these games through, illegitimate means on, the dark web, the deep dark web. So yeah, Sega's got an uphill battle if they think they're going to get a whole bunch of people to subscribe. And good luck to them. I will not be a subscriber of that program. EA has conducted yet another round of layoffs in 2025, and this time it involves a studio closure. Cliffhanger Games was founded in 2021 as an internal studio of EA's helmed by the lead creatives behind the Middle-earth Mordor games, who all departed Monolith Software after the second game was released. Cliffhanger Games announced in 2023 that they were partnering with Marvel Games to make an open-world Black Panther game. Very little information had ever been released about the game in the following 2 years aside from some concept art, but we do know that it was planned to make use of a system similar to the Nemesis system found in the Lord of the Rings Mordor games. I never played those games, but, friend of the show, Nintendo Boy 88 sure did, and I believe he continues to even replay those games to this day. In the Nemesis system, I believe what would happen is if your character was defeated by like a random enemy out in the game, that enemy would get sort of stronger, and you could still go out there and find the enemy that slayed you the first time. And so it kind of created this like tug of war, and if like you lost to them again, they would get even stronger. So it is a really unique concept, and not a lot of games have done anything like that since, so it would have been cool to see the Nemesis system sort of come back through this new Marvel Black Panther game. However, EA announced last Thursday, May 29th, that the untitled Black Panther game would be canceled and that Cliffhanger Games would cease operations and employees would be laid off. EA Entertainment President Laura Miele sent a note to EA staff with the usual corporate canned message. These decisions are hard. They affect people we've worked with, learned from, and shared real moments with. We're doing everything we can to support them, including finding opportunities within EA where we've had success helping people land in new roles. So maybe some of these folks will be able to land on their feet elsewhere at EA, though I wouldn't fault people if they wanted to look elsewhere after how they've been treated now. We don't know the total number of employees impacted, but IGN reports that it's less than 300 employees who were laid off more than a month ago, back in April, I believe, or maybe March. So why did Cliffhanger close? Jason Schreier of Bloomberg tells us that EA executives were frustrated that after 4 years of pre-production work, the game had still not entered full production. This means that the game was still in a very early state, and while full-scale production was drawing near, it would likely necessitate another 3 to 4 years of work before the game would actually release and get into players' hands. Considering that this is a licensed game, which means revenue from the game would need to be shared with Disney, EA didn't think it would be worthwhile to transition the game from pre-production to production. So you gotta wonder if that's the right call though. They've already invested likely millions of dollars over the last 4 years. Whatever agreement they must have with Disney must not be in their favor enough to just throw all that work away. We know EA has also canceled multiple other Disney licensed products, with at least 2 Star Wars projects getting the can over the last couple of years at another one of EA's studios, Respawn. It's pretty crazy if a studio like EA can't find success using some of the most world-popular intellectual properties on the planet. If you're looking for your fix of a new console Marvel game, starring Black Panther and Captain America, we should expect to hear something soon as the creator of Uncharted, Amy Hennig, continues to work on her new game, Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, which stars Captain America and Black Panther, as I just said, on a globe-trotting adventure to take down Hydra set during the events of World War II. That game is set to launch in early 2026. Anyways, RIP Cliffhanger Games, you will be missed. Sadly, the world will never know what you guys were cooking. End transmission.